doing extremely beautifully amazing. Welcome back to our next revision lecture of corporate and economic laws. So, people, thank you so much, first of all, for showing me so much love while you are watching my lectures. I'm receiving a lot of comments. Okay, it really means a lot, people. And a lot of students have requested me, sir, when are you going to upload the lecture of FEMA? It is very, very difficult. So, people, here I am. So today in this lecture, we're going to complete off with two sub-chapters of FEMA. Number one is people salient features of FEMA, and number two is liberalized remittance scheme. Cool, people? So without wasting any time, let's get started. But before we get started, let me tell you, people, these chapters are extremely easy. Okay, I will tell you how do you read, understand and learn it. Okay, when we understand every single rule using logic, people, any law, any chapter, no matter how difficult it is extremely easy to understand. Okay, people? Chalo, people. So let's get started. So, people, how many topics are we going to cover? So there are 8 very sweet, simple topics that we are going to cover. Number 1 is, people, section 3 that talks about restrictions on dealing in foreign exchange, etc. So what are the restrictions where you cannot deal in foreign exchange? Okay. Number 2 is, people, restriction on holding of foreign exchange. Dealing is different, holding is different. Third is, what are the exemptions to section 4? That means when are you allowed to hold foreign exchange? Fourth is, people, what are the current account transactions that you are not allowed to enter, where you are allowed to enter with respect to RBI approval, where you are free to allowed to enter into current account transactions. What are the types of transactions? Every single thing we are going to understand. Okay. Number 6, people, capital account transactions. How does RBI imposes restrictions on dealing in capital account transactions? Okay. 7th is, people, possession and retention of foreign exchange. Possession and retention of foreign exchange are going to understand. And last is, people, what are the forms of business that a company can conduct in India? That a foreign company can conduct in India. Very easy, people. Very easy. Okay. Chalo, people. So let's get started with our first topic, and that is restriction on dealing in foreign exchange. So, people, the first point says that you are not allowed to buy, sell or transfer foreign exchange. Sir, then how are you going to buy or sell or deal in foreign exchange? Only through authorized person, only through an authorized person. So, people, there is a bank called as authorized dealer bank. So only through them only you are allowed to deal in foreign exchange. Except for them, you are not allowed to deal in foreign exchange, because government has appointed authorized dealers to help citizens of India to deal in foreign exchange. So, people, every single money is properly traceable, accountable. That's the reason why, people, authorized dealer banks are into the picture. Very easy, people. So if A wants to remit $5,000 to B, they cannot do so without going through authorized dealer banks. Very easy. Number 2, prohibition on making payments to a person outside India. So over here you cannot transfer, and over here, people, you cannot make payments to non-residents unless you are permitted by FEMA and RBI regulations. So if you are complying with FEMA and RBI regulation and then you are transferring, that's completely fine. But if you are non-compliant, you cannot transfer. Very easy, people. So 2 points we understood. If at all you want to transfer, you have to comply with FEMA RBI regulations. Now that you are complying with FEMA RBI regulation, you have to transfer through authorized dealer banks. Very easy. Third is, people, restriction on receiving payments from person outside India. So, people, without an authorized dealer bank, you cannot accept or receive money from resident outside India. You should always go through authorized person only. Okay. Last is, people, restriction on financial transaction with respect to acquiring assets outside India. So if you want to purchase, create or transfer an asset which is outside India, you have to follow FEMA and RBI rules. Very, very simple. So 4 points. Number 1 is you cannot deal, you cannot transfer foreign exchange without going through authorized dealer bank. Number 1. Number 2, you cannot make payments without complying RBI FEMA rules. You have to comply with FEMA RBI rules. Number 3 is people, you cannot receive payments without going through authorized dealer bank. And 4th is people, you cannot purchase, create or transfer an asset outside India unless it is permitted under FEMA and RBI rules. Very easy, people. Okay. Next, restriction on holding of foreign exchange. Last topic we understood dealing in foreign exchange. In this, we're going to understand holding of foreign exchange. That is section number 4. So general rule says people, no Indian resident is allowed to do 4 things. Number 1 is own, hold, acquire or transfer foreign exchange, foreign securities, immovable property outside India unless you are following FEMA and RBI regulations. Very easy, people. So if you are following FEMA and RBI regulation, you can do anything. That's completely fine. Again, you have to go through authorized dealer bank only. Okay, people. Chalo. Next is people, exemption to section 4. What does the exemption talk about? Property held by a foreign citizen who is resident in India. So when are you allowed to deal in foreign exchange? When are you allowed to hold foreign exchange? Let's understand. So there are 4 exemptions. Number 1 is, let's say a US citizen has shifted from US to India. He can continue to own his apartment that he has in New York. That's completely fine. So a foreign citizen who becomes a resident in India can continue to hold property outside India if it is owned before he became the resident of India. Outside Indian citizen, he has shifted to India. Before he shifted to India, he was not resident of India. He was holding foreign properties. So he can continue to hold foreign properties. Very easy, people. Number 2, property acquired on or before 8th July 1947 and held with RBI permission. If you have acquired property before 8th July 1947 and that you have RBI permission, you are allowed. Example is, a family in India owns a house in Kenya since 1945 plus RBI has permitted. That's completely allowed. Okay. An Indian resident who owned foreign property before 8th July 1947 and has RBI permission can continue to hold it. Very easy, people. 2 points, extremely easy. Number 3 is people, property acquired by gift or inheritance from an eligible person. Now let's understand this using example. An Indian resident who inherits an Indian resident who gets a flat in London from his father who was living in London. Okay. Legally it is owned under FEMA. If the person's father who legally owns a property in London and that property passes on to the son after the death of the father, if the father was owning that property legally, that's completely allowed if the property is now owned by the son by way of inheritance. Yes or no, people? So an Indian resident can hold foreign property inherited or received as gift from person who legally owned it under FEMA. That's completely fine. Okay. Now 4th is people, property purchased using funds from RFC account. Now what is the meaning of RFC, people? Resident foreign currency. Now let's understand this using example. A returning NRI, let's say my uncle who used to live in US, now he has shifted to India. Okay, a returning non-resident Indian uses money from RFC account. Now RFC account means, people, what is the full form of RFC account? resident foreign currency. So whenever a person who is resident outside India, if he has shifted to India, he is not required to convert the US dollars into Indian rupees. He can still make transaction using those RFC account, which is in the form of US dollars. So a returning NRI uses money from RFC account to buy a villa in Dubai. That's completely fine, unless he's holding all that money in RFC account where conversion into Indian rupees is not required. Very easy, people. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So people, 4 exemptions tell me. Number 1 is if property is held by foreign citizen who is now a resident in India, that's completely fine. Number 2 is property has been acquired on or before 8th July 1947 plus RBI has given you the permission. Number 3 is property acquired by way of gift or inheritance from an eligible person. What is the meaning of eligible person? He used to own those properties legally. And 4th is property purchased using RFC account. Very, very easy, people. No, please, people, write down the example that I have given you in the notes. Examples is what will make you understand every single concept where we are learning in a most beautiful way possible, people. That's it. Very easy. Now, 4th, current account transactions. So you are allowed to deal in current account transactions unless you have to follow those exemptions where you are not allowed to deal in current account transactions. You will understand. Okay, people. So, Section 5 of FEMA permits current account transactions unless specifically prohibited or restrained by the government under FEMA. Okay. So, basically, what are current account transactions, people? Example is current account transaction involve 4 things. 1, 2, 3, 4. Involves mean what, people? It is an inclusive definition. A lot of things will also be included. Okay. So, first meaning is imports or exports of goods and services. Example, people, if laptops are imported from Japan and exporting textiles to USA, that's completely fine. It's a current account transaction. Okay. Now, interest payments, royalties or dividends. So, if you have taken a loan from a foreign bank and you are paying interest in foreign currency, it is called as a current account transaction. Right now, I'm just defining the meaning of current account transactions. I'm not saying it is allowed or not. Okay. Number 2 is royalty to a software company. So you have purchased a software, for that you are giving royalty. And 3rd is if you are receiving dividend from foreign company, it will all come across current account transaction. We know these, people. Number 3 is foreign travel, education, medical expenses will also come under current account transactions. 4th is remittances for family maintenance will also come under current account transactions. If I'm sending money to my mom to take care of her living expenses, it will come under current account transactions. Now listen to me very, very carefully. General rule says is that a person is free to make current account transactions in foreign exchange unless they fall under schedule 1, 2, 3. So if any of your transactions come under schedule 1, 2 or 3, there will be restrictions. Apart from that, you are free to deal in current account transactions. You are free to use foreign currency to involve into current account transactions. Very, very easy, people. Very easy. Now let's see what are schedule 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 schedules under the rule. Number 1 schedule is, people, transactions that are completely prohibited. Number 2 is transactions that are not completely prohibited, but it will require prior approval of RBI. And number 3 is, people, transactions that are completely allowed without even RBI's approval, provided you are following the limits. Okay. Now let's understand every single thing using example. Number 1 is, people, foreign exchange cannot be used for remittance out of lottery winnings. So people, if you have won lottery of 5 lakh rupees and you are sending this to someone abroad, you are not allowed to do that. Okay. Basically, government does not want to promote gambling and speculative activities. Yes or no, people? So number 1 is you cannot remit money out of lottery winnings to person outside India. Very easy. Number two, income from racing, betting, gambling. Again, people, the same gambling principle. Government does not want to promote gambling, so these two things will come. Number three, people, payment of commission to overseas agents on export of Indian tobacco. Sir, what is the meaning? Why did tobacco came into picture, people? So basically, if I pay to a US agent for helping me export Indian tobacco, that's completely prohibited. Indian government does not want to harm the health of the people. They care about the health of every single person. That's the reason why, people, this tobacco example came into the picture. Right, people? If you consume tobacco, it is bad for our health. That's the reason why, people, this rule has been made. So you cannot pay commission to US agent who has helped you to export Indian tobacco. Okay. And number four is, people, remittance out of purchase of lottery tickets or banned magazine. What is the meaning of banned magazine? Banned magazine are those magazines which has been banned by the government because of some unreasonable information, unrequired information, bad information government has prohibited. Okay, if a person has introduced a magazine that contains a lot of hatred, that magazine is banned. So you cannot use foreign currency to buy those magazines. So four things we understood that's completely prohibited. Number one is, people, remittance out of lottery winnings. Lottery has come 2 times. Fourth point is remittance for purchase of lottery tickets or banned magazines. So 2 points are over. Okay. Number 2 is, again, the gambling principle has come. Income from racing, betting or gambling, you are not allowed to remit. And last is, people, payment of commission to overseas agents on export of Indian tobacco, completely prohibited. Very easy, people. Perfect. Now let's talk about Schedule 2. That is transaction that require prior approval of RBI. So, people, these are the transactions that will involve a lot of expenses of foreign currency. Yes or no, people? Now, what are the transactions? Let's understand. Number one is, people, foreign exchange for cultural tours abroad. Sir, what is the meaning of this? So, people, if I am sending a dance group to perform outside India, I have to incur a lot of foreign expenses, foreign currency expenditure. Yes or no, people? So when I'm going to incur a lot of expenditure in foreign currency, I have to take approval from RBI. I'm not saying it is not allowed, but just I have to take an approval from the RBI. Yes or no, people? So sending a dance troupe to France without RBI approval is completely prohibited. Yes or no, people? Next is, people, to remit these funds, RBI will not even approve. Okay. Over here, approval of RBI does not even come into the picture. You are not allowed to do that, full stop. But over here, you can do, but it will require RBI approval. Very easy. Number 2 is, people, advertisement in foreign print media by state government or PSU. So, people, you are doing expenses in the form of foreign currency to advertise yourself. If you are the government, you are not allowed. So, state government or public sector undertaking cannot place an ad in New York Times. For that, they have to incur foreign currency expenditure. Yes or no, people? So, you have to take the approval of government. Very easy. And third is freight payment for vessels chartered by PSU. Sir, I did not understand this meaning at all. People, if a public sector undertaking is paying a foreign shipping company, if it is paying to a foreign shipping company, it has to pay using foreign currency, and those expenses are very huge, people. Those expenses are very huge. So for that purpose, if a PSU is paying freight expenses, then it has to take RBI approval because the expenses are very, very huge. It requires RBI permission. So I'm not saying that they are not allowed to do. They are allowed, but they have to take RBI's permission. So 3 points that require RBI permission. Number 1 is cultural tours abroad. Number 2 is advertisement in foreign print media by state government or public sector undertaking. And number 3 is, people, freight payment for vessels chartered by public sector undertaking. Very, very easy, people. Now you can easily visualize. I'm telling you the rules. I'm teaching you the laws using logic, people, so you never forget. Okay? Chalo. Now schedule 3 is transactions where no RBI approval is required, but you have to follow the limits prescribed by the RBI. Yes or no, people? So permitted transaction with upper limits beyond which RBI approval will be required. So 4 things. Foreign exchange for private visits abroad. So if you are going to a trip to Dubai, you will not require RBI permission for that unless you are following the limits prescribed by RBI. Number 2 is if you are paying college fees to a college in UK or US or any college in abroad, that's completely allowed. Third is medical treatment abroad, paying for surgery in Singapore, that's completely fine. And fourth is if you are sending money to a foreign charity, that's also completely fine. But you have to follow the limits prescribed by the RBI. If you don't, you will require RBI's permission. So 4 transactions that are completely allowed, provided you are following an upper limit which does not require RBI permission. Number 1 is private visits abroad. Number 2 is education. Number 3 is medical treatment. And number 4 is donation or gifts to a foreign entities. Very easy, people. That's it. Chalo, people. Now let's talk about capital account transactions. So what does RBI has to say about capital account transactions? Okay, let's read this, people. So section 6 of FEMA governs capital account transaction which involve the movement of capital between India and foreign countries. Okay, unlike current account transactions, capital account transaction involves investment, borrowing, lending and asset transfers that impacts India's financial stability. Okay, very easy. We know the transactions that's going to impact the balance sheet is called as capital account transaction. Yes or no, people? Now let's read all the 6 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So number 1 is, people, selling or drawing foreign exchange for capital account transaction. What does RBI has to say on this? So you can get US dollars. You can get US dollars for investment abroad, but only within the RBI limits. So if you are following RBI limits, that's completely fine with respect to capital account transaction. Number 1 point is simple. You have to follow RBI limits. That's it. Okay. Any person can sell or withdraw foreign exchange for a capital account transaction from an authorized person subject to condition of subsection 2. The RBI regulates such transactions to maintain economic stability. So basically, this point is, all it is saying is you have to follow the RBI guidelines while you make capital account transactions. Very easy. Number 2, RBI's role in regulating capital account transaction. Basically, RBI will tell you which type of capital account transactions are allowed and how much foreign currency you can use towards capital account transactions. So RBI says 2 things: which type of capital account transactions are allowed and how much foreign currency can you use. Very easy. Let's read this. The RBI in consultation with central government decides which type of capital account transactions are allowed and maximum limit for foreign exchange that can be used for each type of transaction. Very easy. So till now we understood 2 points. We have to follow RBI limits. Number 2, RBI will tell you which type of capital account transaction allowed and what should be the limit. Yes or no, people? Chalo. Third point, holding foreign currency, security or property outside India. So basically what it tells you is, if you already owned something abroad or if you have inherited it from your father, from any of your grandparents or ancestors, you can keep it. Very easy. So if you already own property outside India, that's completely fine. You can own it. Now you have not acquired, but you have inherited from your father, from your mother, from your grandparents. That's also completely fine. Let's read this, people. A person residing in India can hold, own, transfer, or invest in foreign currency, security, or property outside India under certain conditions. These include acquiring assets when they were resident outside India or inheriting them from someone who was resident outside India. Very easy, people. Chalo. Next is 4th point. Income from foreign assets held by Indian resident. So if you are allowed to own foreign assets, so any income arising from that foreign assets is also completely allowed, people. So you can freely use the money earned from foreign asset that you have inherited. If a person inherits foreign exchange, foreign securities or foreign property from someone who was resident outside India, they can hold and use any income arising from those assets. Okay. Now, fifth point, RBI has power to ensure full export payment. So, people over here, RBI will ensure that whatever exports you are doing, you are getting the full value of the money that you are exporting to prevent you from under invoicing. Number one, if you are not getting the value that you are exporting, that means what? You are draining the foreign exchange. Yes or no, people? So RBI will check if you are under invoicing or you are doing a fraud. Okay, RBI will make sure that exporters are paid fully. Let's read this, people. To ensure exporters receive full value of their goods, RBI can issue directives to the exporters requiring them to submit proof of payment that you have received full payment and comply with the rules with respect to partial payments prescribed by the RBI. So if you have received partial payments, RBI will give you some directives that how are you going to comply when you have received only partial payment. Very easy. Now, sixth is exporters of services must declare foreign payments. So, service exporters must honestly report all their foreign payments. This is what this point is trying to tell you. Every exporter of services must submit a declaration to RBI or other authorities providing correct details about foreign payments received and full disclosure of material particulars regarding the services provided. Basically, you have to disclose all the information if you are exporting service. Very easy, people. So 6 points. Number one is you can get US dollars provided you are following the RBI limits. Number two, RBI will tell you which type of capital account transactions are allowed and what should be your limit. Number three is, people, if you have already owned a property outside India, you are allowed. If you are not owning but you have inherited it, that's also completely fine. If you have inherited or if you are owning and income arising from those assets, that's also completely allowed. Number five, you are not allowed to under invoice. If you are under invoicing, you have to follow the RBI guidelines. Yes or no, people? And last is you have to submit all the details with respect to the payments if you are exporter of service. That's it, people. Is it difficult? It's not difficult, people. You have created a picture in your mind that FEMA is difficult, FEMA is difficult. FEMA is not difficult at all, people. It is extremely easy. Chalo, people. So until now, we are done with restriction on dealing in foreign exchange. Number two is restriction on holding of foreign exchange. And then exemption to section 4. Current account transaction also done. 3 schedules and the rules is also done. Capital account transaction also done. Remain 2 topics are there. Then we will start with LRS. Yes or no, people? Let me know in the comment section if you are still finding this chapter difficult, people. It is extremely easy, people. If you understand laws using logic, you will never face the same difficulty again. Okay. So, people, before we move on to the next one, let me tell you one thing. Whenever we are learning something, whenever a concept we are learning something, do not just read, understand, learn only for the sake of your exams. Over here, we are trying to learn a very, very important skill that we often forget. And that is problem solving skill, people. Okay. Government used to face problems. To solve those problems, government has introduced a law. And this law we are learning. So when we learn the laws, we have to understand why those laws were made in the first place. What exactly is the problem the government is trying to solve when they are introducing these laws. Okay. So very, very important skill we are learning apart from just laws. We are learning a problem solving skill, which is very, very important in our life, people. Okay. This skill is a very, very important skill that's going to be very, very useful throughout our life. Problem solving skills. Okay. Chalo. Now, possession and retention of foreign exchange. So, when are you allowed to possess or retain foreign exchange? Let's understand. How many points are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 points are there, people. Very easy. So, RBI has set specific guidelines for the possession and retention of foreign currency by residents. Okay. Number 1 is, if you are an authorized person, you are allowed. So, if you are a money changer like Thomas Cook India, just go on Google and research who is Thomas Cook India. Okay, they are authorized dealers. They are allowed to keep 1 lakh US dollars if their main business is to deal in foreign exchange. Okay, so RBI give you permissions. Authorized persons can hold or possess foreign exchange within limits specified by the RBI. These limits are determined based on the type of transaction of business an authorized person is involved in. Yes or no, people? If your daily business is to deal in foreign exchange, so you are allowed to hold foreign exchange more than the limits that is applicable to normal scenarios. Yes or no, people? So number 1 is, if you are an authorized person, you are allowed. Number 2 is, people, if you are possessing foreign coins, that's also completely allowed, because when a person collects foreign coins, it is not for the purpose of transactions, it is for the purpose of collection. Yes or no, people? If a student is keeping 100 euros at home, that's completely fine. RBI will not come and punish that student. Yes or no, people? So anyone in India can possess foreign coins without any restrictions. Foreign coins are considered collectibles or non-currency assets, so no limits are applied to them. So because foreign coins are not involved in daily transactions, that's completely fine if you hold it. Okay, there's no limit for foreign coins. Okay, number 3 is, people, retention of foreign currency by residents in India. Let's say if a traveler returns to India, he can keep 1,000 US dollars in cash if it is within the RBI prescribed limits. A person resident in India can retain foreign currency up to a limit specified by the RBI. This limit is for personal or business use, but should not exceed the cap. Very easy. Third point is very easy, people. RBI themselves have allowed you within the limits. So you are following the limits, that's also completely fine. And last is, foreign currency acquired when a person was a resident outside India. Now that he has returned to India, he can hold. So former NRI keeps 5,000 euros earned abroad after declaring it to the customs. So if we have given all the details of the amount of foreign currency you are holding to the RBI, that's completely fine. Yes or no, people? So a person who is currently a resident in India but was previously a resident outside India can retain foreign currency without any limit if it was acquired when they were resident outside India and declared it to customs at the time of entry. Very easy, people. That's it. Nothing rocket science, people. Nothing rocket science. We are understanding every single thing using logic, people. Yes or no? So 4 points. Number 1, if you are an authorized person, you can possess or retain foreign exchange. Number 2, for foreign coins, there is no limit. And number 3 is retention by of foreign currency by person resident in India if you are following the RBI limits. And number 4 is, if you have acquired those foreign currencies while you were resident outside India, that's completely fine. Very easy, people. That's completely easy. Chalo. So now. 7th point is also done. Now let's come to the last point. Okay. Now what are the forms of business that a foreign company can conduct in India? Number 1 is, people, if you are incorporating a company, in India, let's say it's a joint venture, it's a wholly owned subsidiary, that's completely fine. Example is Samsung, firm Samsung India Private Limited, that's allowed. A foreign company can incorporate a company in India under the Companies Act 2013, either as a joint venture or a wholly owned subsidiary. Very easy, people. And last is license office, representative office, project office, or branch office. Example is, people, Google opens license office. What is the meaning of license office? That office which is only with respect to coordination of activities between the companies. Yes or no? License office in Delhi. If Google opens a license office in Delhi only to coordinate the marketing activities between the US office and Indian office, that's completely fine. So foreign company may set up various types of offices in India to carry out specific activities such as license office, representative office, project office or branch office, each with specific rules or limitations. Yes or no? So forms of business that a foreign company can conduct in India is, number one is incorporation of a company in India. It can be JV, it can be WOS. And number two is a license office, representative office, branch office or project office. Easy people. That's it. Was it tough people? It was not at all tough at all. It is very, very easy people. Yes or no? Okay. Now let's look at the expected question people. Number one is this discuss the restrictions on dealing in foreign exchange as per section 3 of the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. Explain the role of RBI in regulating the foreign exchange transaction. So you have to write these answers. Dealing without authorization, payments outside India, receiving payments, financial transaction for assets outside India. Everything you have to write. Section 3 you have to just simply learn and write. That's it. Number 2. Explain the provision with respect to holding foreign exchange and foreign property under section 4 of FEMA. Discuss the exemptions and conditions under which foreign property can be held by Indian residents. So over here you have to write section 4 of FEMA. General rule. You cannot hold foreign exchange securities or foreign property unless permitted by FEMA or RBI. So write those exemptions people. Okay. 3 schedules you have to write. Current account transaction, very, very important. In the last attempts, question was asked with respect to this. Okay, people. So that's it. We are done. Now let's look at the past year's question paper. Discuss permitted investments by person resident outside India. Okay. Number 2. State the restrictions on dealing in foreign exchange and holding of foreign exchange. People, same question. See, for 7 months it is asked. Okay. Simply you have to write it. Next. This LRS, we'll discuss this once we cover the LRS chapter. Okay, people. And last is. Explain the compliance requirement under FEMA in relation to people. This we're going to understand the FDI chapter. Okay, FDI chapter. That's it, people. We are done with the first chapter, that is salient features of FEMA. Yes or no, people? Now let's take a break of 5 minutes and let's get started with the LRS. That's again a very short, interesting, easy chapter, people. Okay, chalo. let's get started with our next chapter, people. So, people, we know until now how many questions have been asked in our previous attempt with respect to salient features of EMA. We know there was only one question, that was dealing or holding in foreign exchange. Yes or no, people? Perfect. Chalo. Let's get started with our next sub chapter, and that is liberalized remittance scheme. Beautiful chapter, very small, very short. In the last attempts, one question was asked for 7 marks. Okay, let's get started, people. So before we begin, let me tell you that this scheme is not for companies, it is only for natural persons like you and me. Apart from that, this scheme is not for any company, partnership firm, body corporates, no one. Only for natural persons this scheme is for. Okay? Chalo. Let's see what are topics to be covered. 4 topics. Number 1 is prohibited items under the scheme. Number 2 is what are the facility for resident individuals under LRS scheme. And number 3 is what are requirements that should be complied under LRS. I think this is the most important topic. And last is the loan facility under LRS for NRIs and PIOs. So people, if the examiner wants your paper to be very, very difficult, he would put this question if you ask me. Okay? Chalo people. Just give me 1 second. Yes, people. Chalo. Let's get started. Number 1 is what are the prohibited items under scheme. So how many points are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 points. 6 points are there. Let's read this. Number 1 is remittance for prohibited purposes. Now we know, people, what do you mean by prohibited purposes? If you're selling lottery tickets, it is prohibited. Rohan is remitting 50,000 rupees to buy international lottery tickets. That's not allowed. Government does not promote gambling. Government promotes health. Hence, tobacco is also banned. Yes or no, people? So number 1 is remittance for prohibited purposes. Number 2 is, people, remittance for margin calls to overseas exchange. This is very, very important, people. Definitely, you will find it very, very confusing. So people, supposing if I am a trader, if I am a stock market trader, okay, I hold an foreign currency account in US, okay, I also trade using that account. Now that foreign currency account broker is asking me that I have to deposit some amount of money for margin purposes, and for that purpose I am transferring money. That is not allowed. Example is, a trader sends money to foreign trading platforms for fulfilling margin requirements. That is not allowed, people. Not allowed. So no remittance for margin calls to overseas exchanges or counterparties. The reason is government again does not promote speculative transactions, gambling and all. So this all comes under those category. Yes or no, people? So 2 things. Number 1 is prohibited purpose, not allowed. Magazines or lottery tickets, gambling, not allowed. Number 2 is margin requirements. If you are transferring foreign currency, it is not allowed. Number 3 is, people, if you are remitting foreign currency for the purchase of foreign currency convertible bonds in the overseas secondary market, that is also not allowed, because, people, in overseas secondary market there's a lot of exposure involved. Yes or no, people? So government does not want to lose money with respect to unnecessary risk. Yes or no, people? If a person wants to buy DLFs, foreign currency convertible bonds, listed on London Stock Exchange secondary market, it is not allowed. So no remittance for the purchase of foreign currency convertible bonds in the overseas secondary market. For that purposes, you cannot use LRS. Number 4 is remittance for foreign exchange trading, no remittance for trading in foreign exchange is allowed, people. So under LRS scheme, you cannot enter into transactions of such nature. Yes or no, people? Sir, but still people trade in foreign currency. That is allowed, but not under LRS. Yes or no, people? Next is remittance to non-cooperative countries or territories. So if you are sending Indian rupees to North Korea is not an FATF compliant country. For personal purpose, if you are sending money, that's not allowed because that country is not an FATF compliant country. What is the meaning of FATF? Financial Action Task Force. Basically, this is a plan, this is a program where all the countries have signed up that they are going to follow a list of financial laws. If a country is not accepting to follow those financial laws, that means there is a very, very high risk involved if you are going to put money over there. Yes or no? And next is remittance to individuals or entities with terrorism risk. If you are transferring money to a terrorist, obviously not allowed. Not allowed. 6 points. Prohibited under items under the LRS scheme, which means what? You cannot use the LRS scheme for the following transaction. Number 1 is lottery tickets, magazines, banned magazines. Number 2, if you are sending money to fulfill margin requirements, not allowed. Number 3 is if you want to purchase foreign currency convertible bonds from the overseas secondary market, you are not allowed. And number 4 is if you want to remit money for foreign exchange trading, not allowed. And number 5 is, people, if you are remitting money to non-cooperative or territories, not allowed. And last is if you are remitting to individuals with terrorism risk, it is not allowed. Very simple, people. That's it. So we are done with the first point. Now let's come to the second point. Okay. Facility for resident individuals under LRS scheme. Okay, so what is the facility the government is offering you? Resident individuals can avail foreign exchange under LRS for the following purposes within the limit of, this limit is very, very important, 2,50,000 US dollars. Only till that amount only you can remit, not more than that. If you are remitting more than that, you will require RBI's approval. Very, very simple. So for these purposes, you will not require RBI approval. So how many items are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9 items. Let's quickly read this. If you are using LRS scheme, let's say within the limit of 2,50,000 US dollars for private visits to any country, it is completely allowed. If a family travels to Singapore for a trip, that's allowed. But under Nepal and Bhutan, this LRS scheme is not covered. So if you're going to Nepal or Bhutan, you cannot use LRS scheme. Okay. Number 2, gift or donation. So if a person is transferring 500 US dollars to a cousin in Canada, or he's donating to a US registered charity, that's completely allowed, people. Okay. Number 3, going abroad for employment. If you are going to Dubai and you are incurring a lot of expenses like visa stamping or initial stay in Dubai, that's completely allowed. Okay. Number 4, immigration. Remittance for immigration expenses like visa fees, initial accommodation. Very similar point, same. Over here you're going for employment and over here you are incurring expenses to settle over there. Next is maintenance of close relatives abroad. If I'm sending money to my mom who lives in US for her living expenses, for she wants to learn a new skill, or for healthcare purposes, I can remit money. Yes or no? Next is travel for business, conference, specialized training or medical purposes. I can remit money and realize that's completely fine. So if I'm attending a business conference in Germany or I want to incur expenses for my medical diagnosis, it is completely allowed. Next is expenses for medical treatment. If I want to, obviously, I don't want such things from happening. Okay. If X wants to incur some expenses for his heart surgery, that's completely fine. And last is if he wants to pay tuition fees, living expenses, travel cost for studying abroad, allowed. And last is people, any other current account transactions not covered in the definition of current account transaction but are similar in nature, which is fine. Example is, if I want to pursue an international online course, if I want to pay my exam fees, if I want to complete an online training from a foreign country, it is completely allowed. So let's quickly revise this, people. Number one is private visits. Number, except Nepal and Bhutan. Number two, gift or donation. Number three, going abroad for employment. Number four is immigration purposes, maintenance of close relatives abroad, then travel for business, conference, specialized training purposes, then people expenses for medical treatment abroad, studies abroad, or any other items of current account in nature and in similar in nature to all those expenses we have understood. That's completely allowed, provided you are following the 2,50,000 US dollars limit. Yes or no, people? See, second topic is also done. Now let's come to third topic. Requirements to be complied by the remitter under LRS. So if you are transferring money to your under LRS, now let's see what are the compliance requirements you have to comply. Very, very important question. Definitely, if I would be the examiner, I would put this question in the exam. Okay? Chalo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 questions are there. Number 1, you have to designate an authorized dealer bank branch. We already know this, people. If you want to remit money, you have to do so through an authorized dealer bank only. Choose one branch of an authorized dealer bank for all LRS remittances. Number 1. Now, next point is very, very important. Bank account maintenance requirement. You have to have a bank account with that chosen authorized dealer bank for at least 1 year before remitting under LRS. Why is this so, people? So that authorized dealer bank should know your financial history. It should not be a case where you have opened an account in month 1 and in month 2 you are remitting money. Not allowed. Should wait for at least 1 year. Yes or no? So that bank will know all your financial history before they allow you. Yes or no? And third is, there should be a proper due diligence from the bank. Example is, they will find out for which purpose, so for what purpose you are remitting money. Is the money legally earned by you? And number 3, is there any suspicious activity for which you are transferring money? All these background AD bank will check. Yes or no, people? Next is permitted currency for remittance. So you are allowed to permit. So the permitted currency is US dollars, Euro, GBP, JPY, yen and all. All these currency are allowed. But Iranian rial is not allowed. Why? Because it is not freely convertible. So foreign currency is not freely convertible. How is it going to help India, people? Yes or no? How is it going to contribute to your foreign exchange reserves? No. Next is special approval for banks soliciting deposits for foreign entities. Which means what, people? If an Indian bank is helping a foreign branch in getting depositors from India, that will require RBI's permission. Let's see this. Bank must get RBI approval to solicit, which means what? To get new customers for foreign branches or act as agent for foreign financial services. So basically, you will require RBI approval if you want to act as an agent of foreign bank. Yes or no? Why is this made? Let's understand. Bank wants to help customers to open deposit in the foreign bank. You have to take an RBI approval so that you don't mislead the customers. That is the purpose, to prevent frauds, to prevent misleading customers. Yes or no, people? And last is investment rating under LRS. So over here, you will not require any investment rating. If you are remitting money to any place, your money, your risk. This is the principle that RBI follows under LRS. No specific credit rating are required, but the investor is responsible for evaluating the investment's risk. Yes or no? So if you remit money and that money has gone somewhere else, RBI or the government is not responsible because you are responsible. Okay. So 6 requirements to be complied by the remitter under LRS. Number one is you have to designate an authorized dealer bank. Number two, bank account should be maintained for at least 1 year. Number three, due diligence should be done by the AD bank. Number four is permitted currencies are only allowed. Fifth is special approval from RBI if you are soliciting customers for foreign branches. And last is investment rating under LRS is not required. Yes or no, people? So we are done with third point also. Now let's come to the last point. Loan facility under LRS for NRIs and persons of Indian origin. What is the difference between NRIs or persons of Indian origin? NRIs will have a valid passport. Yes or no? They have got valid passport. They are more Indian than persons of Indian origin. Persons of Indian origin have not born in India, but their roots belong to India. But NRIs have gone from India to outside India. That is the difference. Basically, remember people, NRIs are more Indian than PIOs. Yes or no? PIOs only have the Indian roots. Their grandparents, parents are born in India. And NRIs are born in India and they have gone outside India. Yes or no, people? Now let's understand this. Very, very important, people. It is lightly tricky. Loan facility under LRS. If an Indian citizen wants to give loan to NRI or PIOs, what are the conditions they have to follow? A resident individual can give a rupee loan to NRIs or PIOs who is a close relative under the following conditions. Loan must be interest free. Why, people? It should not be commercial in nature if you are giving loans to your relatives. Yes or no, people? With a minimum maturity of 1 year. Which means what? You can give a loan, but the minimum tenure should be 1 year to prevent short-term transactions. Minimum 1 year ensures genuine family support loan. Yes or no? It should not be a quick money moving tool. That is the purpose why this minimum maturity period has been used. It should not be a quick money making tool. That is why minimum 1 year requirement is added. Yes or no, people? Number two, loan must be within the overall LRS limit of $250,000 per financial year. We know this, people, already. Number one is it should be minimum 1 year and it should be interest free. Interest free 1 year. Number two, limit is $250,000 in one financial year. Number three, loan must be used for the borrower's personal expenses or business in India. It should not be a case where I'm giving loan to my uncle in India so that he can go to Singapore and start his own business. No. If I'm giving loan to my uncle should start his business in India only. Okay? Use it to start a business in Dubai, not allowed. So, loan cannot be used for prohibited investments. We all know this, people. Business restricted for foreign investment. It is not allowed. You cannot purchase agricultural land or lottery tickets. Not allowed. So, four things. Interest free, minimum maturity of 1 year. Number two, $250,000. Number three, personal business purpose in India. And number four is not prohibited purposes. Next, loan amount must be credited to NRO account in the NRI PIO. What is the meaning of NRO? Non-resident ordinary. So people, basically, all the Indian income and Indian transactions should stay within India. For that purpose, this account has been invented or introduced. Okay. When you transfer money to that account, you will ensure that all the money that you are remitting, it is completely in India only. It is not going outside India. Yes or no? So India basically does not want your money to go outside India. If you're giving money, if you're giving a loan to your relative, but he should make sure that he is India only. He should not be outside India. Yes or no? And last is loan amount cannot be remitted outside India. We know this, people. Purpose should be to support expenses in India, not to support expenses outside India. And last is repayment must be made through normal banking channels only, so that the money is clean, traceable and compliant with FEMA rules. Very easy. So 7 points. Quickly tell me, people. Number one is it should be interest free. It should be minimum 1 year maturity. Number two, $250,000 per financial year limit. Third is it should be for personal or business expenses in India. Number 4, it should not be for prohibited purposes. Number 5, loan must be credited to non-resident ordinary account so that the money stays in India only. And 6th is loan amount cannot be remitted outside India. And last is repayment must be made through inward remittances or normal banking channel only so that the money is clean, traceable and compliant with FEMA laws. So we are done with people LRS. Very easy people. Now people, let me know in the comment section, do you find these chapters difficult? It is very easy people. Okay. Now let's look at the past year's question paper. Number 1. Discuss permanent investment by person resident outside India. This will be studied in FDI chapter. Okay. Number 2. State the restrictions. This is already done, people. This is already done. We'll just color it. Okay. See people, state the persons eligible to claim benefits under LRS scheme. I've already told you, only individuals are allowed to claim benefits under LRS scheme. Over here you have to write the answer. Only natural persons are allowed to take the advantage of LRS scheme. Company, body corporate, partnership firm, nobody else can take benefits under LRS scheme. Now the main question is, what are the purposes for which such remittances can be made? You have to write down all the following purposes. Yes or no, people? Tell me now, what are the following purposes? See, you have to write this answer. Okay? Facility for SA individual under LRS scheme. That's it. Is there rocket science, people? There was no rocket science. It is very easy. Chalo. This we'll study in FDI chapter. So people, FDI chapter is very, very important. Okay. In the next lecture, we're going to cover FDI and ECB, external commercial borrowing. Okay. That's all, people, from my side. If you have got any doubt with respect to any concept, be it far intelligent, be it very, very simple question, do not hesitate to ask your doubts in the YouTube comment section. Okay. I'm going to make sure, be it any doubt with respect to any concept, with respect to any chapter, okay, I'm going to make sure that all your doubts are resolved as quickly as possible, as beautifully as possible. Keep on asking doubts, people, okay? That's all, people. I will end the session over here. Thank you so much for watching. You have been an amazing audience, okay? So, eat well, sleep well, study well, take care. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.